In 2022, Netflix stock tanked 70%, losing millions of subscribers. It's the kind of corporate disaster we can't look away from. But what most people don't realize is that this isn't Netflix's first brush with death. Back at the dawn of the internet, there were a tiny DVD by mail company with one shot to make it big. They went to Blockbuster basically begging to be bought out. Blockbuster CEOs had a good laugh, dismissed them, and well, we all know how that ended. So, how the heck did Netflix go from a laughingstock to being worth over $200 billion? And more importantly, how did they go from this
KnF&x?
Netflix suffered its biggest stock loss in nearly 2 decades, losing more than $50 billion in market value
to this?
This morning, Netflix announcing its second quarter earnings to the tune of $8.2 billion in revenue and the addition of subscribers.
You know, to a great extent, the streaming wars are kind of over. I think Netflix has kind of won it.
It's 1997 and the internet is still this strange niche thing, but savvy folks can smell there's money in it. Marc Randolph is one of those guys, an entrepreneur desperate for his big break. He's just watched Amazon strike gold and he wants a piece of that online fortune. Problem is, he has exactly 0 killer ideas. Marc keeps pitching his friend Reed Hastings, but it's a string of dots, customized surfboards, gourmet dog food. Reed keeps shooting them down, and for good reason. Then something happens. Reed gets slapped with a $40 late fee at Blockbuster. As he's stewing, an idea sparks: movie rentals, but delivered through this new internet thing. No more late fees and a way bigger selection. But hold on, we're talking about 1997 here. Think about VHS tapes. These are heavy and expensive to ship. They will be crushed by their competition before they even got started. And just as they're about to scrap the idea, Reed Hastings reads an article about an emerging technology: DVDs. They are compact, lightweight, and barely anyone's heard of them, let alone carries them in rental stores. It hits them both. This could be their golden ticket. And here's where it truly gets crazy. Neither Marc nor Reed have ever seen a DVD before. They're taking a massive gamble that these tiny discs are about to change everything. So they scrape together what money they have. Marc even gets his mom to invest, and bless her, because that investment turned into a fortune. Next, they get a seriously scrappy office, beat up furniture, and employees working for peanuts in exchange for stock options. And Netflix is born. Now the whole team hates the name Netflix. It sounds low budget and not like the next big thing. But after agonizing over a bunch of fancy alternatives, they grudgingly settle. Well, it's short, simple, and says internet plus movies. Months of crazy hustle follow. They build their website and start tracking down every single DVD out there, even weird indie films nobody's heard of. They have no clue if anyone will care enough to wait for a movie in the mail, but they are all in. Netflix is about to launch and they are either poised to change the entertainment world forever or about to crash and burn spectacularly. Okay, first month in and Netflix isn't exactly raking in cash. Sure, they hit $94,000 in revenue, but here's the problem. Only $1,000 is exactly from their core idea of renting DVDs. The rest are people just buying them outright. This might sound great, but Marc and Reed know it's a ticking time bomb. They need renters. Why? Because you can make way more money renting out the same DVD over and over again. Once big companies catch on and start selling DVDs online like Netflix, they're screwed. Cut to a few weeks later, the summer of '98, Marc and Reed get a call that makes their stomachs drop. It's Jeff Bezos, as in the Amazon founder, and he wants to meet. You see, Bezos wants to make Amazon the everything store, and DVDs are next on his list. He's loaded after going public and is thinking about buying Netflix outright, rolling them into Amazon. This should be a no-brainer for our guys, right? Quick payout, they avoid competing with a giant, except here's the thing, they don't want to sell. They've poured their hearts into this rental idea and they finally have the website and the DVD collection. It's just starting to feel real, so they say no to Bezos. But the plane ride home is brutal. They realize they can't juggle selling and renting DVDs. It's a recipe for disaster. The renting model is what they believe in long term. So they came up with a crazy solution. When Amazon starts selling DVDs, Netflix will send buyers their way. In return, Amazon will basically advertise Netflix as the place to rent. On paper, it's genius. A win-win solution. They get Amazon's massive reach, ditch the messy side of their business, but here's the catch. They're scraping the only thing actually making them money. None of them, not even Reed, could have predicted what was coming next. Marc strikes that deal with the DVD player companies, and it should be genius. New tech, excited customers, free trials for Netflix, the perfect recipe for growth, right? It turns out it's the kind of blunder that will haunt him in nightmares. You see, Sony slapped those serial codes right on the outside of the boxes. Anyone wandering through Best Buy can jot down numbers and snag 10 free rentals from Netflix. They're getting scammed blind, and those few actual customers they win leave once the freebies run out. It's a double whammy of failure. Netflix needs a Hail Mary, so they go for the ultimate attention grab. It's August 17th, 1998. The whole nation is fixated on the Clinton scandal and that grand jury testimony. Netflix seizes the moment. DVDs for 2 cents, headlines scream, and for a minute, they are the talk of the town. But then, disaster strikes. It turns out, their supplier is also burning, let's just say spicier content. And somehow, those discs get mixed up. Imagine fielding calls from subscribers expecting Bill Clinton and getting something vastly different. Cringe doesn't even begin to cover it. By now, Netflix isn't just failing, it's the business equivalent of a dumpster fire. The Amazon deal is a dud, Marc's getting roasted for his choices, and that's when things get personal. Reed, the co-founder and the money behind Netflix, calls Marc out. He's not throwing insults, it's worse. He's got a PowerPoint, slide after slide, breaks down Marc's bad calls. It's brutal because it's true. Reed wants the CEO chair, and you know what? In a way, he's right. Marc's a visionary, but Reed's a seasoned boss, the kind investors trust. Marc's ego takes a beating, but he knows this is about survival. Besides, Reed's not some villain here, they're friends deep down. He agrees title doesn't matter as long as they fix the sinking ship. Reed at the helm still doesn't magically solve their problems. They need paying renters, and fast. Marc goes for a run, brain churning, and that's when it hits him. An idea so out there, so risky, it could either save Netflix or bury it for good. Up until this point, Netflix is basically just Blockbuster 2.0, online but still focused on renting individual movies. It's frustrating, especially with those shipping delays. But then Marc has an epiphany. What about subscriptions? A flat monthly fee, you get a few DVDs at a time and swap them out on your own schedule. Suddenly, movie night is flexible. If you're in the right mood, there's always something to watch. This puts them ahead of Blockbuster, who can compete with that instant gratification. Reed loves it. The day the subscription launches, it blows up. 90% of people sign up. That's proof they finally found the magic formula. Now that those monthly renewals are rolling in, the revenue follows. They are finally on solid ground. But their true genius move was the algorithm called Cinematch. You see, Netflix realized a vast catalog can be a curse, with people lost in endless scrolling. They need a way to steer viewers towards those hidden gems. The films that are a great match for their tastes and cheaper for Netflix to stock. Cinematch learns from user ratings and starts matching taste. Now Netflix isn't just convenient, it's personalized. After years of fumbling, Netflix is riding high. Growth, innovation, customers who rave about them. Then comes March of 2000. The dot-com bubble bursts in a spectacular fashion. The Nasdaq index plummets, tech stocks take a nosedive, investors panic. Funding for anything tech-related, non-existent. For Netflix, heavily investing in expansion right when this hits is a full-on disaster. Marc and Reed know the clock is ticking. They have to take drastic action if they want to survive. Okay, Netflix is getting traction with their subscription model, but they're still a minnow compared to the juggernaut that is Blockbuster. In the year 2000, Netflix is on track for maybe $35 million in revenue, while Blockbuster rakes in almost $800 million on late fees alone. We're talking a market value of $6 billion, 60,000 employees. It's the ultimate underdog story. Although Netflix has one ace up its sleeve. You see, Blockbuster is old school. They are so focused on their stores, they've barely noticed the internet revolution. The problem is, Netflix knows it's a matter of time. Once Blockbuster wakes up and smells the DVDs, they'll crush the competition. But before the dot-com crash, investors were throwing cash at any startup that ended with .com. That funding would have let Netflix build a huge lead. Now, nobody wants to touch tech stocks with a 10-foot pole. Marc and Reed have a desperate idea. What if Blockbuster bought them out? Netflix gets the backing, Blockbuster goes online overnight. Smart idea, right? Reed pulls some strings, but weeks go by with nothing. Then boom, a last-minute call. Meet with the Blockbuster CEO tomorrow. Marc and Reed scramble, hop on the plane and walk into the lion's den. The Blockbuster Bryce has the power here and they're not hiding it. But Reed lays out the vision. Together, they'll dominate movie rentals. The CEO listens, polite, then basically scoffs. He thinks the whole .com thing was a fad, that Netflix's model isn't even viable. Finally, just to humor them, so what's your price? Reed, ice in his veins, says, $50 million. And they laugh. It crushes Marc and Reed, but the message is clear. Nobody takes Netflix seriously. They leave the meeting dejected and terrified. Blockbuster won't buy them, and now they're rivals. The tiny internet upstart versus the brick-and-mortar empire. Somehow, Netflix has to win. But how? Cash is getting tight post-crash, so Netflix lays off a third of their staff. It seems brutal, but they actually get more efficient. The best people stay, the team gets lean and mean. Plus, their service is legit good. Maybe they can survive this, but to beat Blockbuster, they need cash. In 2002, Netflix goes public on the stock market, and it's a smash hit. In the next few years, Netflix is growing, but you know who finally pays attention? Blockbuster. They saw the IPO and realized, this Netflix thing is for real. They finally launched their own copycat DVD rental service in 2004. Game on, Netflix is this underdog against the giants that's finally woken up. Here's where things get rough for Marc. Remember, after Reed took over as CEO, things changed. Marc missed the scrappy startup days, the tight-knit crew. Now there's hundreds of employees, not 8. He decides to step away from Netflix, leave Reed to this epic fight. Reed, meanwhile, knows this is a battle of budgets. Blockbuster has way deeper pockets. On one interview from that time, Reed says Blockbuster is throwing everything but the kitchen sink at them. And then guess what? The Blockbuster CEO literally sends a kitchen sink to the Netflix headquarters. Talk about throwing your weight around. So Netflix needs to get different, not just better. They try a social network selling used DVDs, advertising, nothing really sticks. Reed realizes they're spreading themselves too thin. Blockbuster tries everything too, even video game rentals. Meanwhile, Netflix stays focused. Movies and TV, that's their core. And they've got a secret weapon: time. You see, in 2007, even though Netflix is crushing it with the DVD rentals, they know it can't last. Internet speeds are getting faster. They take inspiration from YouTube, but nobody's tried streaming full-length movies and shows before. It's a gamble. Content library is tiny at first, but it's a start. And best part, no competition. They license stuff cheap from studios, hook up deals to stream on Xbox, Apple, all of it. But the true ace up their sleeves, they launch internationally. This streaming thing isn't limited by snail mail. Netflix also keeps working on that recommendation algorithm. Realizing star ratings are useless, people lie to themselves about what they really watch, so they run to the Netflix prize, $1 million contest to find a better way to match movies to viewers. Smart and great marketing. While Netflix is on fire, Blockbuster's getting desperate. They finally ditch late fees but make it even worse. You don't return a disc, they auto-charge you full price to keep it, whether you want it or not. Talk about greed. More and more customers jump ship, especially once Netflix has streaming, way more convenient. By 2010, you know what happens. Blockbuster goes bankrupt. Why? Simple. They were too slow, too stuck in the old ways. They had the money to crush Netflix, but they waited too long. Meanwhile, Netflix was always thinking ahead, always willing to ditch what worked for what might work better. That's scary, and that's the secret weapon. Now, full disclosure, there's still one Blockbuster clinging to life out there, like a relic. And there's a documentary about it, ironically streaming on Netflix. But that's a whole other story. Netflix beat Blockbuster, but now they're their own worst enemy. In 2011, Reed makes what he admits was the biggest blunder in the company's history. At this point, you pay $10 a month, get DVDs and their new streaming service. It's the perfect combo. But streaming is clearly the future, so Reed decides to split the business. Streaming stays on Netflix, DVDs get shoved onto a whole new site called Qwikster. First mistake, now you need 2 accounts for what used to be one service. Then comes the gut punch. They don't just announce a $16 plan for both. They tell existing customers their $10 plan is now $8, but only for DVDs or only for streaming. If you want both, that would cost you $16. Imagine that, a 60% price hike in the middle of a recession for a worse experience. Reed admits people felt betrayed. Netflix went from adored to hated overnight. The apology video, let's just say it didn't help.
I just want to say again how sorry I am of the way that we handled the communication around these big changes.
Even SNL mocks it. The name, the CEO's t-shirt, the goatee, it's the perfect cringe comedy storm. Over 1 million subscribers quit, furious. Netflix stumbles, and their image is damaged. They pull Qwikster, bury it quietly, but the question lingers, was this just a mistake or the beginning of the end for Netflix? Because their next move is a make or break gamble. By 2023, Netflix ditches DVDs, focuses on streaming. It's the future, but there's a catch. They don't own most of the movies and shows they stream. Licenses expire, and what if rivals starts their own streaming services? Netflix could get squeezed out. The solution was their own content. This is a whole new level of risk. Readers flirted with the idea before, but they were never big enough to make it worth the cost. But after beating Blockbuster, going global, now they might just pull it off. In 2011, Ted Sarandos, the head of content, finds the perfect show, House of Cards. The problem is it cost $100 million to make. That's 500,000 new subscribers at least, just to break even. Reed calls it a bet the company moment, but they take the plunge. House of Cards drops in 2013 and it's a smash hit. Now they're spending crazy money on all kinds of originals, even outbidding Hollywood studios. Traditional TV can't keep up. They're not just making content, they're using their data to figure out what gets renewed, what gets the green light. Plus, they're global, so a hit in one country travels the world. Think about Squid Game. By 2021, their content budget is $17 billion. Netflix is crushing it. But here's where it gets weird. This company is basically Google's age, and it's been a mail-order DVD store, a subscription service, a streaming giant, and now an award-winning studio. 4 total reinventions. No wonder binge watching is a thing. So with that much power and constant change, you have to wonder, is this sustainable?
The streaming wars have started.
Disney is expected to unveil details of its new streaming service.
Tim Cook just announcing that Apple TV Plus
will start to roll out its first shows on November 1st.
NBC Universal's streaming service in the works is called Peacock.
The streaming wars have begun and Netflix is under siege. Disney, HBO, Apple, even Amazon, who they rely on for tech, now wants a piece of this pie. Suddenly, those old licenses aren't so cheap. Netflix is bleeding big shows like Friends and The Office. Their solution had been original content, and with the pandemic, subscriber numbers exploded. By 2022, everything changes. For the first time in a decade, Netflix loses subscribers. Worse, they predict even steeper losses. Their stock price implodes in days, erasing $50 billion. Now it's the Blockbuster playbook. They introduced a crackdown on password sharing, hike prices, even consider ads. Subscribers feel the squeeze, but with rivals grabbing content, Netflix needs cash to keep making originals. It's a quality versus quantity problem. They're throwing insane money at content, hundreds of millions per movie, but not every show is worth it. They cancel hits too soon, leaving fans furious. Meanwhile, Disney Plus hits its subscriber targets years ahead of schedule. Is this really the end for Netflix? They still have over 200 million subscribers, but the growth is gone and internal chaos isn't helping. But let's not count them out just yet. Media vultures jumped on this, writing Netflix's obituary. But then, 2023 brought a surprise. Not only did they survive the password crackdown, they thrived. Millions of new subscribers, higher revenue than ever before. The stock is back on the upswing.
This morning, Netflix announcing its second quarter earnings to the tune of $8.2 billion in revenue.
You know, to a great extent, the streaming wars are kind of over. I think Netflix has kind of won it.
Still, the golden days of cheap, convenient streaming are ending. Now it's dozens of services, hundreds of dollars a month, and it's frustrating. Streaming was supposed to kill cable, now it's just as messy and expensive. Netflix's real fight, though, might not be the other streamers. It's the battle for attention. Reed Hastings himself says Fortnite is a bigger competition than HBO. TikTok, with its free content and addictive algorithm, is siphoning eyes away. Netflix needs a defense against that. This is it. Netflix's make or break moment. Will they adapt again, or is this where the story ends? Netflix has surprised us before, many times. They've defied the odds, and if they can strike that balance between quality content and what people are willing to pay, they might just pull it off again. We'll have to wait and see. But hey, at least it makes for a great story, right? Speaking of great stories, if you enjoyed learning about us under the battle, you might like my video on how a poor boy created Rolls-Royce. Another epic tale of innovation and defying expectations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.